Women at war. The Vietnam War was the longest war in United States history. It was the least popular war, too. It was the only war the United States ever lost. Between 1961 and 1973, more than 3.3 million Americans served in Vietnam. More than 58,000 of them died. The names of the dead are engraved on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The V shaped black granite wall is in Washington, D.C. People who see this memorial may be surprised by one fact. The wall names only 13 women, but in all, 65 American women died in the Vietnam War. More than 7,000 military women served in Vietnam. At that time, women did not fight in combat. They did not fly fighter pilot planes. Most were nurses and MASH units. These units were often in war zones, so they were often attacked. The nurses faced danger again and again. Army nurses had to deal with more than danger. They had to deal with their patients' pain and suffering. These nurses treated more than 153,000 wounded soldiers. Some soldiers were crippled for life, and many others died. As they died, the last face they saw was often the face of a nurse. The nurse's job was heartbreaking. They treated so many men. Their patients came and went so quickly that at times, patients' faces became a blur. Nurses tried to remember each one, but they could not. Sometimes, though, one face would stand out. It might be due to the man's cries of agony. It might be because of his last whispered words. Or it might be his look of fear. Years after the war, nurses still had trouble shaking these painful memories. Connie Kirtley was a nurse in Vietnam. Her memories of the war are painful. Her strongest memory is the smell of dirty uniforms. Kirtley often had to cut these uniforms off wounded men. I can smell that smell just like it was happening right now, she said. At times, Kirtley treated so many wounded men that her own clothes became soaked in blood. Thousands of civilian women also volunteered to help in the war. Many of them served with the Red Cross. They bought food, medicine, and other supplies to those in need. Other women worked for private relief groups. Women also worked for the United States government and for the press. These women, too, faced danger in Vietnam. Some of them died. One government worker died when the American embassy in Saigon was bombed. A mine killed one female journalist. Gunfire killed another. 3 missionaries were killed in a hospital raid. 4 women died as prisoners of war. One of the worst tragedies took place on April 4th, 1975. The U.S. forces had left Vietnam. A group of women had planned a mission called Operation Baby Lift. They feared that orphan children left in Vietnam would die there. So they tried to take these children out of the country to safety. Sadly, their plane crashed. 38 women and 100 children were killed. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial honors 13 of the women who died in the war. But Diane Carlson Evans, a former Army nurse in Vietnam, dreamed of a memorial to honor all of the women who served there. Evans began planning it as early as 1983. It would take 10 years for her dream to materialize. Evans formed the Vietnam Women's Memorial Project in 1984. Workers on the project had much work to do. They had to get Congress to approve the idea. They also had to design the memorial. American sculptor Glenna Goodacre planned a stunning sculpture of 4 bronze figures. The sculpture features 3 Vietnam-era women. One of the women tends to a wounded soldier. Workers on the project also had to find a site for the statue. They chose a spot next to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The statue would remind visitors of women's role in the war. Evans' group still had to get funding for the memorial. Over the years, project workers raised $2.5 million. Finally, the statue was built. It was unveiled on Veterans Day, November 11, 1993. Thousands of people came to the opening ceremony. They came to thank all of the brave women who served in Vietnam. For the first time in American history, a memorial to honor women's service to this country was dedicated in the nation's capital. The statue was not only the statue not only celebrates the women's courage and loyalty, it also reminds all people of the huge human toll that war always takes.